There he is.
Hey, what's up?
And I can hear him. It's all good.
I like it.
Awesome.
I want a background like yours, though, Ian. I feel like I'm losing out here.
Yeah, I should have given this to everybody.
I'm gonna get a green screen next time. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, you got to do it. The green screen, it's key, man. It's key.
I love it.
And you can actually probably get them now. You couldn't like for a year there, you know.
Yeah, no, you can
hard to get the green screens.
No kidding. All right,
man. We'll take it away. Let's hear about Titan.
All right. It says, okay, you gotta let me screen share now. All right, desktop 2, keynote, play. All right. So this is my first Laracon not giving a talk in ages, and I was like, well, I mean, I gotta be here somehow, you know. So this is how I'm gonna do it. So this is my sponsor slot for Titan. So we're Titan. You may remember us from such hits as Adam Wathan wrote Tailwind and refactoring the collections while he worked here and then promptly quit to become a super fancy successful person, or Keith Damiani blew our minds about graph databases a few years back, or John Bonacorsi wrote the original class-based factories, or all sorts of other amazing things that our team has done. And we are shortly a consultancy. We work with Laravel, Vue, React, React Native, Vue Native Script, Inertia, and Livewire, and all that kind of stuff. We're based in Chicago, but we're spread out right now all across North America. And we are temporarily also repping Italy because Keith lives there right now. What we try to do is we try to hire the most creative and capable and empathetic people we can find, and then we give them a great working environment and an incredible amount of trust, and we just let them loose, and they do absolutely incredible things with it in service of our clients and customers and the rest of the community. This year, we took the second year of something that we started last year, which is called the Laracon Scholarship Program. And one of our most passionate goals at Titan is to expand access to Laravel and the Laravel community to as many people as possible from any places and backgrounds as we possibly can. So last year we said, you know what, we want to take this opportunity with these much more affordable tickets for the online version to create a sponsored ticket program. So we partnered together with Laracon and we said, we are going to make this thing where people can donate tickets. So we donated 50 tickets and we invited the rest of the community to donate tickets as well. And we did it again this year, and we have 62 sponsors who gifted a total of 320 tickets gifted. And as of a couple days ago, we still had a few people who wanted tickets who hadn't gotten theirs. But by the end of it, every single person who asked for one got one, which is an amazing success. And it's just a really great reflection of our community, which I really love. So these are the people who did the work. Oh, I love animations. And there's one more list, but I'll just let you look at these real quick. These are the people who put their money where their mouth is and said, not only am I going to attend this conference, but I want to put some money behind supporting other people being able to attend this conference as well. So thank you all for your contributions. Thank you for being a part of making this community more open and more accessible to more people. Okay, one last thing in this direction. The Laravel community is special in a ton of ways. And one of the ways that we're special is that there's an incredible amount of learning resources available in our community. We all know about a lot of the other options, but one of the things I wanted to mention is that 2 years ago at Laracon, I introduced this concept of on-ramp that was just getting started building. And I just want to remind every single person who knows about it, but especially those of you who may not, that this is a free resource at onramp.dev where you can go to learn Laravel quickly, no matter what your background is. If you're coming from WordPress, you're coming from a front-end bootcamp or whatever, if you're not a programmer at all. Our goal here is to not teach you, but to give you all the resources you need to learn how to do Laravel. So what I think would be really helpful is if you're new to Laravel, if you're onboarding a team to Laravel, or if you have friends who are new to Laravel, please go here and check it out and try it out. But if you're not new, what would be really helpful is if you go take a look at OnRamp and say, if I were teaching somebody right now, what would need to be there? Titan has taken on the ownership of this for sure, but I would love for it to be a community effort where we are all together saying, here are the things you need to learn. So it links out to external resources. It's translated to a whole bunch of different languages. So go take a look at it. If it's not in your language, maybe give us a translation. If you got some resources you want to suggest, let us know. And of course, if it's new for you, try it out. And if you have any suggestions, we'd be more than happy to make them there. But the idea there is to make as many people as possible able to be Laravel programmers as one. So that's it for today. Thank you so much, Laracon. Thank you to the speakers, and thank you to our community, and thank you to every single person who donated a ticket together to our sponsorship program. That's it.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Titan, just an amazing member of the community, of course, just always working on something for the Laravel community. Just really great to have them be part of the event as always. All right, let's see. So many people in here. I gotta find Christoph. There he is. Oop. Okay. Bringing on Christoph now.
Can you hear me already?
I can hear you. And I
Let's
can see
bring
you.
in my cam. Yeah.
Perfect.
Hey,
How are
how's
you?
it going? I'm good. Yeah, excited.
Look at that background. It's relaxing back there. It's
It's nice,
beautiful.
right? Yeah. I worked the whole day to make it look like this.
All right, well, let's get started. Take it away. We're excited to hear you talk.
Okay, good. Let me bring in here my slides. Okay, can you see my slides?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, perfect. Then let's get started. So yeah, welcome everybody, wherever and whenever you are. So currently for me, it's 4 p.m. afternoon. I'm here in Vienna and I'm very happy to share now this next hour with you and enjoy this conference. So great from Mohammed starting this conference off, and it's great for me being back here again the second time now. I really appreciate the trust from Ian. And yeah, so my name is Christoph Rumpel. I'm a web developer. I've been working a lot with PHP and Laravel, PHP Storm. I've been sharing a lot of my business side. So I'm a one-man business show. And I am from this little star here called Austria, somewhere here in the space. And yeah, by the way, also from me, thanks for Kaneko and Nelson for creating the amazing website for Laracon and these amazing char heads. I really do love them. So that's why I had to share and use mine here too. And by the way, thanks Nelson, so that I can use the background too, which I saw Ian already had. And yeah, by the way, I also already received my swag today. So pretty amazing. If you want to reach out to me, have any questions later, whenever I'm all day on Twitter, you can find me there with my handle, Christoph Rumpel. Again, I share a lot of PHP and Laravel stuff there. So check me out there. And yeah, maybe we have some conversations there. Okay, but back now to my talk. So my talk is called the Final Laravel Service Container Talk. And I was a little bit not surprised, but yet the moment Ian said to me that he has chosen this talk, I was like, okay. So I think I submitted 2 or 3 topics and he has chosen this one. And I think that's the one where I had like the biggest mouth. So the idea of this talk is, so a lot of people are struggling with the service container, and I've been there too. It's just a complex topic, and there are different reasons why it just didn't click for me for a long time. And I thought, now I want to help all those people, and with this talk, I can make the final talk about the service container. And from then on, nobody needs any talk about the service container anymore, and everybody would be happy. Of course, yeah, probably that's not happening, but maybe, I can help a lot of you or some of you. So that's the goal of my talk. So I hope I can hold this promise here, at least a little bit. So the service container is difficult here, as I said, for many reasons. One of them is there are so many terms involved to this topic. So we have singletons, dependency injection, auto-resolving, binding, making, inversion of control, IOC, provider, facades, you name it. So a lot of things. And also, if English is not your first language, some of those verbs are not so easy. So binding and resolving are things that I never heard before I started dealing with the service container. And all this adds up to make this a topic which is more complicated than it should be, at least in my opinion. And now with my talk today, I want to do something a little bit different from what people have already done. So there are great resources out there about the service container, but I thought there is one thing where I could do it a little bit differently. And this is forget a little bit about the how the service contained, how we can bind something, how we can resolve something, but talk a little bit more about the why. So why do we need the service container? How does it help us? And when does it help us? So these are the 2 things that I want to focus on my talk. And we're going to start by assuming that there was no service container at all. So I'm going to load here my example, and we're going to have some live coding now where we have a Laravel application. And of course, Laravel itself is using the service container a lot itself. But for the thing that we want to implement, we try to assume that there was no service container for what we want to do, and then we see how far we can get. Okay, let me bring in here my Laravel application, but maybe let's start here in my browser. All right, so we have here this dummy shop here for some kind of IDE video course. No idea who would want to do something. Just a very stupid idea, but I think it's good enough for this talk here. And so we have this little shop, and if we try to buy something, holy crap, it's not working. Okay, so let's see why this is not working, and let's try to fix this. So again, I'm here inside a very simple Laravel application. I have here my checkout controller, and this gets hit when we push the buy button on our course. Yeah.
1 second. Looks like your screen has frozen.
Oh,
So
no way.
if you stop your share and let's go again.
Okay, back again.
All right.
This is now, I think, try number 4. So I'm trying to share my screen now. It's desktop number 1.
All right, we can see it.
Okay, here it is, PHP Storm. Can you see that too?
Yep.
Okay, I guess we'll just try it one more time and see if it works now.
Let's try one more time. If this doesn't work, then I think we'll just take a short break, and we might, we can work around it another way. But let's try this one more time. Hopefully you don't hear from me and the update fixed it.
Yeah, I hope so too. Fingers crossed, please, everybody.
Fingers crossed. All right.
And okay. Okay, so back here, what we wanted to do is to create now a new class in order to handle our Stripe payment. And again, this is a very simple example of what we want to do here. So we're going to start by creating a Stripe payment provider, and let's bring it in under a new shop namespace. Okay, here we have this new class now. And let's start by creating a public function. And the only thing we're interested in is charging the user. So we're going to assume that we get in here some payment details, which is an array. And I'm also going to return an array. So at this point here, we would charge the user. So we would charge the user through Stripe, which we're not doing today. Sorry, guys. A point of my talk lies somewhere differently. And now we're going to return an array. So let me just bring this in here. I have this already prepared. So we're assuming that everything is working. Similar what I'm going to assume now for the rest of my talk.
Yeah, you're still working. So let's run with it. If you don't hear from me, you're good.
Oh my God, you're scaring me, Ian. But I'm glad it's working again. So that's a good sign. So we're sending back an array with just a success message. We successfully charged now a specific amount from a specific user. And we have done this through a specific provider here. And we're just going to provide here a name just so that we know that it comes from Stripe. And I always like to have my return types and PHP Storm too. Okay, good. Back now to our controller here. So let's think about what would be the most simple way to use this new class that we have created. And it would be just creating here a new instance. So our payment provider equals new Stripe payment provider. And that's it. And now we could run this new charge method on this new class. And we're going to provide some payment details, and we do get them through the request, which we have access to, and we only want to get the email from the user and the amount for our example. Okay, let's store this inside a payment response variable like this, and now we can get rid of this fixed status here, and we're going to use the one from our response. Status Here we go. And let's also get rid of this message here and bring in the message from our payment response as well, which I think we call just message. Okay, let's try this now again. Back inside our shop, let me show this full screen again. When we now try to run this, yeah, glad this is working now. So we've made some money, $900. Yes, that's good. My wife will be happy. And we were charging this from, a user who is not capable of writing his own first name. Pretty dummy user here. And we were doing this through Stripe. Okay, so this is working now. We are happy. But now let's take a look at what we have done here now. So we have created here a new instance. And when we have here a new instance inside our checkout controller class, this means we have a dependency now. Our checkout controller depends now on the Stripe payment provider. And when we look at this, it doesn't look that complicated or that much of a big deal, but yeah, we're already adding here more responsibility into our checkout controller, because now this controller is responsible for creating this new instance. But again, yet not that difficult or too much of an issue so far. So, but now let's assume our Stripe payment provider now needs to work with an HTTP client. So we want to talk to Stripe here. And now the most easy way again to do this would be just to create a new HTTP client. So let's do this here. We're going to use Laravel HTTP client, which has a factory class, and it's called, I think it's this one, yeah, Illuminate HTTP factory. And now we could use this client to make, for example, a post request, which we are not doing because, again, this is not the purpose of our talk. But yeah, again, now we have a new instance here. And again, it's the same like before. We are creating this new instance here, which is now a new dependency of our Stripe payment provider. And I think you're already getting there where I want to get with my points here. So every time we create a new instance inside our classes, this class becomes smarter. It has more logic in it. And this also means it becomes more complex, more difficult to maintain, to refactor. So there are some side effects to this. So this is why we should find a way to deal with this dependency. And the most easiest way, again, that's what we aim for today, is to use constructor injection. So we're going to create a new constructor, and we're going to say we want to assume that we get here an HTTP client from outside. And let's call it HTTP client, like this. And since I have provided the scope public, I don't need to initialize this property here, because in PHP 8 we can use property promotion here. So this also means now if we bring back this in here, we could now make use of our HTTP client, and we don't need to create it anymore. So this is now a good thing, because now we get this instance into this class and we don't care how it is created. Never mind, we're just getting this instance and then we can immediately use it like this. But in order to make this work, of course, we have to provide this instance now here inside our controller. So again, the most easiest way would do to just create this instance now here. Again, everything should be working still. Yeah, we basically haven't changed anything. But now our Stripe payment provider looks more beautiful, less logic in here because we get the instance. But on the other side now, our controller here is becoming more smarter than before, because now we have to create the factory instance and we then have to create our Stripe payment provider. So now we have two dependencies, and yeah, we are getting here the point where this is not good for your code anymore. And there are two reasons. So first, our code becomes, we add more responsibilities to this class, which means more responsibility, which is not good because, yeah, it would be more difficult to change it, and it's more easier to make errors. And then every time where we want to use this payment provider, maybe in another class, which would be a valid case, then we have to write this whole line now again. And then if maybe the factory changes for some reason and the factory gets some arguments, we have to change this in multiple places. And then we end up with duplicated code, which is also not what we want to. And that's the reason why we want to use the service container, because the service container now can help us. And the reason we now need help from the service container is because we can't easily now inject this instance like we did before with the factory here where we created. And this is because we have no control over how the checkout controller is being created. This is something that Laravel does for us, and we don't have access to that. And this is a good thing. But what we can do with the service container, we can use a feature called auto-resolving. And it works like this. So inside our class here in the controller, we can ask for a specific class, like our Stripe payment provider. Let's use the same variable, and let's get rid now of this line here. And yeah, I've called it just payment provider like this. And now if we try to run our shop again, it is still working. And this is a very powerful concept in Laravel that we need to talk about for a minute. So it seems like someone is passing in this instance when we use this invoke method, but we know it's not us because we have no control here, but Laravel is doing this for us. And auto-resolving means when Laravel creates this checkout controller, it sees this method and it sees that we want this dependency here. And then Laravel is like, oh, whoa, you want a dependency here? Okay, let me check this first, okay? So what do we have here? So we have a class, okay, I know what a class is, Stripe payment provider. I can check out this class. Laravel can do this through PHP's reflection API, which you can use to analyze PHP classes. And then Laravel sees, okay, we have a constructor here. Oh, another dependency. Okay, let me check this first. I can't promise anything, but maybe I can do this for you. So Laravel sees, okay, we have here a dependency. What is this? Okay, it's a class. Again, I know what a class is and how to create a new one. A factory, what is a factory? Then it checks the factory. No arguments here being used. And sorry, that's the one. And okay, this means now Laravel says, okay, you're lucky today because I can create this instance for you. And now Laravel creates the factory for us and then creates the Stripe payment provider and just gives us now this instance. And this is why in our checkout controller, we can now easily make use of it without us having to do anything. And this is super powerful. And I'm sure you all have used this before because yeah, it's the same up here with the constructor. We are also asking for the request instance and the service container just gives this instance for us. And yeah, these type hinting things, I'm sure you have used them in a lot of things. And first, you often don't notice that you interact with the service container, but you are. And this is how this is working because of auto-resolving. Very cool feature of the container, and we all use this. But also auto-resolving has its limits. So back here in the constructor of our payment provider, let's say now we have another dependency here, another thing that we need. And now we make this a string and it's the currency. Like this, and since we're already here, let's maybe also add this currency now to our success message so that we know which currency we have used with this amount. Okay, now back inside our shop here. So when we try to buy this now, what do you think will happen now? Give it a thought for 1, 2, 3 seconds. Do you think it will work? Let's try it out. And no, it does not work. And it's not working because Laravel has no idea what to do with this dependency, with this string here. When there is a class, Laravel knows how to find a class, how to create a new class, but with a string, this could be just anything. So Laravel says, I'm out here, you are now on your own, I can do this. And this is when, we have reached the limits of auto-resolving. And this is where we need to tell Laravel and the service container explicitly how to create our Stripe provider instance. And this is what we can do inside a service provider. So let's bring this up here. Application providers, we have here an app service provider, which comes with every Laravel application. And in every service provider, we have a register and a boot method. And the register is where we tell the container how to construct something. And we do this by making use of this app property, which is the container itself. And now we're making use of those magic verbs. We're going to bind something. And binding just means we tell Laravel if someone asks for a specific string. And here we're going to provide the full name of our Stripe payment provider. So this results just in a string. If someone asks for this string, we're going to tell Laravel what to return. And the second argument here is now a closure where which is being run when someone asks for this. So again, someone says through type hinting, I want this class for this key, and then Laravel runs this closure here. And now inside here, we can define how to create our Stripe payment provider. So this means we are now creating here a new one. Like before, we're now passing in, again, the most simple way, just create our HTTP client. And now we say our currency is US dollars. And now if we try this out again, refresh it, we are back working, we are using US dollars, and we made some money through Stripe again. So this is now a super powerful concept where we tell Laravel, hey, if someone needs this class, I tell you how this class should be created. And now we only have this place where we define how this is being created. So this means we don't end up with duplicated code anymore because now we have this one place. And this is now super cool. We just ask inside our controller or wherever we want this for this class, and Laravel checks, okay, is there something in the container where someone said how this should be created? Oh yeah, there is. And then it runs this function that we have connected with our class key. Okay, so what's next? Now let's say we don't want to use Stripe anymore. Let's say we are now working with Paddle. And Paddle, if you don't know it, is just a new payment provider that you can use, especially helpful if you are working inside the EU because it's handling your taxes. So let's call this Paddle payment provider. So we're just copying the class from before, changing the name. Here we go. What else do we have to change? Yeah, here we have to change the name to Paddle, and now we will charge the user through Paddle. Okay, so inside our controller now, we want to use Paddle. So, okay, we will change this. Now we're telling the container we want to use Paddle. And again, we try this out. Again, think for yourself, do you think Laravel is capable now of creating this class? And no, again, it's not, because we have the same issue like before. Laravel has no idea what this currency is. So what does this mean? We need to go back to our service provider and now do the same for our new payment provider. So that's our Paddle payment provider, and we want to return a new one like this. And now we change the currency to euros. All right, refresh it, continue back working again with euros, which is good because that's a little bit more money than dollars. So that's good for our pocket. And we were using Paddle now. Yes, that's cool. And now we have defined those things inside our app service provider. And the only place where we have to change this now is here, where we ask for the Paddle payment provider or the Stripe payment provider. But the service container has some more features which makes this even more powerful. So for our Paddle payment provider, let's introduce an interface here. And here we have it. Let's call it payment contract. So this should be a contract between all of our payment providers, and we make sure that it uses the same three methods here, which is the constructor, the charge method, and the get name. And also for our Stripe payment provider, we're going to implement this interface called payment contract. Okay, so now we have this interface, and this is now a common which connects those two payment providers. So this means now, wouldn't it be cool if we could just ask for a payment contract and then we get a payment provider back? This now looks really stupid because you might know that we can't create an instance of a payment contract. And Laravel is as smart as we are, and it also tells us, nope, this is not working. I can't create an instance of our contract. But there's something that we can do with our service providers. So inside the app service provider, let's get rid of this here. And now let's say if someone asks for this payment contract, then we want to give back our Stripe payment provider. And if we run this now again, we should be back with a working shop using Stripe, US dollars, everything is working. And this, when I realized how this is working, it was like this whoa moment for me, because this changes a lot. And this also tells you a lot about how Laravel is working itself. So inside our checkout controller, we don't have to tell anymore what specific implementation we are using. It could be Stripe, it could be Paddle. We don't care here. And what's cool about this is we don't have to change this code anymore. If I want to use now Paddle again, I'm just returning here now an instance of Paddle, refresh it, and it's still working now with Paddle. And we didn't have to change anything in our code here. And this is now super powerful because we now have this one place where we need to make a change and the rest can stay the same. And if we decide we want to bring in another payment provider, okay, let's do this. We can do that inside our app service provider, and we don't have to think about that we need to change everywhere we were using payment. And when you think of that, it's really cool because we don't care here what we are using. We just want to get a payment provider and we just want to charge. And yeah, this is how we can make use of the service container and get back a class which don't has that many responsibilities anymore. And yeah, you might think you don't want to swap out your payment implementation. Mostly you maybe would just use one of them and this stays forever. But yeah, first, you never know. Things are changing. Nobody some years back would have thought that we in Europe would be using Paddle now also. Things are changing. And also the other thing is, if you have applications where you want to provide different solutions for your users, so they can decide what they want to use. And then something like this binding to an interface is very powerful. And when you think of this, Laravel, yeah, it's working pretty much the same. We have a lot of different database providers. We have different file systems, and you never had to change some things inside the code when you want to change the implementation. You mostly change this inside your config file. Okay, let me just check my notes here. I think we are ready to move on. Yes, we are. So let's get back to my slides. Let's hope you can still see them. And let's sum real quick up why, again, we need the service container. So it helps us to better handle our dependencies. And this is a general thing, but more specific, it helps us get back classes which don't have too much responsibility, which makes them more simpler, better to maintain, and better to refactor. It prevents us from writing duplicated code, and it also helps us change the control flow. And this is also what I wanted to show you real quick. So the first time we were creating our HTTP client in like the lowest class that we had. So we had the controller, and then we had the payment provider, and here we were creating our HTTP client. So now this means our class, which is very low in the control flow, has now the control how to create this, which is a bad thing because the more higher you bring up this control, the more control you have on your whole application. In the second example, where we're using Constructor injection, it was already a little bit better because we brought the HTTP client now to the controller. But now with the service container, this is now even more better because now we have the controller over our application, and we are, so to speak, on the highest level of control. And this way we are much more flexible when we change something, where we want to use a different application. And this is also what we refer to of inversion of control, or also IOC. We're changing the control flow from being in control very down here to get it up here. Okay, but of course, also the how is important too. How does the container work and how does it help us? So we've been using auto-resolving. So this was the first feature where we type hinted something and Laravel created it for us without us telling Laravel how to do this. But we hit a limit with our string dependency where we needed to tell Laravel explicitly how to create an instance. And this was when we're using a service provider and we binded this information inside the container. So this is binding or explicit binding. But of course, we could have also used like a facade, for example. So when we talk about dependencies and dependency injection and type hinting auto-resolving, we also need to talk about facades, because facades are always a dependency when you use them, because you use them inside a different class, and then this facade becomes a new dependency of your code. And maybe we could have also written something like this, like a Stripe payment provider facade, where we could just run this static charge method. And in the end, this wouldn't be too much different, because in the back, every facade is asking the service container for a class very similar to what we did through type hinting. So basically, it's almost the same. It looks something like this. We have this global resolve method where we ask the container for something. So please container, give us an instance for this key. And the key again is our class name. And this would be pretty much the same as when we were using the facade. So with facades, we're also making use of the service container, which is a good thing. The only thing with facades that I always want to mention is there is one issue with them, and you don't see very easily which dependencies you have inside a class. So if we use constructor injection or any type of method injection, we see through the method which dependencies we have. And if we have in our constructor line 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dependencies, with 6 dependencies, you might immediately see, okay, maybe you need to refactor your class and this is too complicated. But with facades, you don't see where they are used because they are global and you can use them everywhere. So the only thing you need to make sure is when you use facades that you don't use them too much. That's always what I wanted to add, but I love facades. They're very powerful and love to use them as well. Okay, and since we're talking already about facades and fakes, I also want to show this now. So another example here, let's bring this back in here. I'm going to change now to a new examples branch. Here we go, and inside here I have test class. Let's call it a fake test. That's what I wanted to do. So I'm using this test here just in order to dump something out. We could easily use Tinker or Tinker well as well for this, but I like to use this test here because I also can easily do this now inside PHP Storm already. So let's assume we want to work with the mail facade here. Let's import this class here. And with facades, when you use a facade, we're actually using a different instance, which is just connected to the facade class. And the way to see what instance we're actually using is to use this get facade root method. And the root is just the class that we are actually using when using a facade. So this again is the mail facade here, mail class. But if we now get the root here, I'm going to run my test now inside PHP Storm, and we now can see here the output of my test. And since I'm dumping out just what we get back, you can see now when we use the mail facade, we are actually using the mail manager. So we can see that we get this instance back here. Okay, but you probably also have already seen that we can use those fake methods in Laravel. And that's a pretty cool concept, also very highly connected to the service container. And if you don't know them, you can use these fake methods on some of the facades of Laravel, mostly inside a test, where you want to make sure when you use the facade, you're not actually, in this case, sending out real emails. But still, your code is working and you can make some tests and everything would still be working. So if we try to run this now, you will see that we now get a different instance back. So now we are working with the mail fake class, which is different from the mail manager. And let me show you how this works. So this fake method is now a method that really lives inside your facade. And that's almost the only method that we have here besides this get facade accessor method. And here we're now telling the container we want to swap out the implementation of this facade with this new mail fake, so a new instance. And inside the swap method, we are now deep down inside the Laravel window directory, have here the space facade. Now the important thing is here. We are telling Laravel to store a specific instance. Here we have the key, similar to the class key that we have provided in our examples, but now we're using this get facade accessor method, which we have in every facade in Laravel, and it's just a string. So for a mail manager, we now want to store this instance. And this is now very similar to binding something to the container, but now we don't buy the information on how to create something. We're binding directly instance that we already have. And in our case, that's the mail fake instance. Seems I'm already losing my voice a little bit, but I think we will make it till the end. Okay, so that's how mail fake is working. And we can easily do something very similar for our Stripe payment provider as well. So maybe we want to use our Stripe payment provider in a test, and we want to make sure that we're not actually really charging a user. So I want to test this, this behavior with a test here. So I'm going to assert a specific instance. So I want to assert, if I ask the container for the payment contract, like we did in our example, that I get back the Stripe payment provider instance. So this is what we assume that we get back, a Stripe payment provider class, and we are now making use of this resolve method to ask the container for a specific instance. And in our case, it's the contract class. So if we ask the container for this for the instance connected to this payment contract, we want to make sure what we get back is an instance of the Stripe payment provider class. And if we run this, everything is green. This is good. So things are working. But now what I want to do now is I want to make sure, again, when I ask the container for this, that I get back now a different instance, and we have a payment fake class ourselves. So similar to the mail fake class Laravel has, I have now created this payment fake method. So we want to make sure that when we use in our test a class that we get back here, that it is a payment fake and not a Stripe payment provider. And of course, this is now failing because, we haven't changed anything. We now get back a Stripe payment provider because we're asking here the same. And I want to make this work similar to how facades are working. So let's say we have a fake method now on our Stripe payment provider. We don't have it. Let's create it. I want to make sure that we get back here payment fake instance, which I'm going to return here. And now we're making use of this global app helper in Laravel, which you can use in order to talk to the service container. And now we want to do something very similar to what we've seen with facades. We want to store a specific instance. And the key is, again, our payment contract class name. And now we create here a new payment fake class. Okay, back in here, let's run our test, and you can see this is working. And as you've seen, this was now super simple. We can change the behavior of what we get back from the container just by using a fake method like Laravel does. And now inside our test, we can make sure that we test Stripe, for example, and we don't actually talking to Stripe. So this is pretty cool, and I wanted to show you that as well. And there is another real world example that I wanted to show you. Let me just check the time here. I think we're already a little bit late because of the issues, but I try to be a little faster now so that we don't have any delay later or too much delay. So inside Laravel, we can use a mail provider, which is called Postmark, which I'm using for my blog. And Postmark you can use for sending out your emails. And when I use it, Laravel sends a post request to Postmark, and then Postmark sends out my emails. So that's what I've been using. And in Postmark, you have so-called streams. And streams are like different inboxes where you can say, all these emails should be in this stream and all these emails should be in this stream. And for my blog, I have transactional emails like a welcome email, password reset emails. They should be stored in this stream. And then we have the newsletter emails, which should be stored in this stream inside Postmark. And there I can just check those different inboxes. And I wanted to use this in Laravel with my with the Postmark driver. But some weeks ago, it turned out inside the mail manager, this is where Laravel is handling this. Here it creates some information which is then being sent to Postmark. And here you can see we haven't set any headers. And in order to use this, we would need to set a specific stream header for Postmark. But since Laravel is just setting here an empty array, again, we are now deep inside Laravel itself, and we have no access to this class. So here it just looked like this is not working. And just to test this, inside Laravel, I'm dumping out the HTTP headers, which Laravel is using when sending something to Postmark. So this means now when I try to send out this new email, I can see which headers would be used. And as you can see, again, it's empty here because these headers are empty. Okay, so nope, let's keep this here. I first thought, okay, I just can't use streams. It's not possible. But then after some researching, trying a few things out, talking to a few people, it turned out that there is a solution. So what I have done now is I have created a custom mail manager. So this is a class that I have created. We are extending the base mail manager, which is just the manager Laravel uses. And I'm here overriding this create post method. And instead of returning an empty array, I'm just looking if there is a stream ID set. And if it is, then I'm setting this header here. And again, inside our mail config, I have this stream ID set here. So this means if I would be able now to use this custom mail manager, we would see this HTTP header being set. But the thing now is, Laravel doesn't care if I create this class and extend the base mail manager because it has no idea about this class. So what we now need to do is we need to tell Laravel that this class exists. And we can do this through a service provider. So I've created now a custom service provider here. And now here I'm extending the mail service provider from Laravel. And inside here in the register method, similar to what we did, here now in this method, here comes this interesting part here. So here Laravel tells the container when someone asks for the mail manager, return this instance. So very similar to what we've done before. By the way, the mail manager is also what is being used when we use the mail facade. But now instead of this mail manager, we want to use our custom mail manager. So this is why inside my own service provider, I'm now saying the same, saying, okay, when someone asks for the mail manager, we're not going to return the Laravel's mail manager, but we return my one. And by the way, we are using here singleton, which is pretty similar to using bind, but singleton just means after the first run of this method here, of this closure here, Laravel stores this instance. And the next time someone asks for the mail manager, we return the instance that we already have. Because otherwise this function would be run every time and would always get back a new empty instance. But it often makes sense to store some object or some data in this object. And the next time when you ask for it, you get the same object back. And by the way, I'm always referring to one request lifecycle. So after the request is finished, everything starts from new again. Okay, so we have now a custom mail manager provider. We're extending the one from Laravel. And inside our app config file, we now need to bring in this new provider that we've created. By the way, the app service provider is already in this list by default. So this is why this was just working. But if you create a service provider yourself, you have to bring this in here. And now let's bring Tinker back in here. Let's try this again. And you can see now our method was being used, and we are now setting this HTTP header, which we need in order to use message streams with Postmark. And yeah, funny thing is, some weeks later, I created a PR and Taylor accepted it, and now we can use message streams without all this extra stuff that I did. But I'm glad that I had to go through this, because I learned a lot and I saw that this is possible too. So we're able to extend and override stuff that is already binded in the container, and we are just changing this. So we're talking about facades. We were talking about extending and overriding. And we have also seen that we, instead of binding just information about how to create something, we can also directly bind an instance, which we already have. Here's another example inside of Laravel, inside the HTTP kernel, where we get in a new request with all the information about the endpoint, about the verb, was it a get, the post request, and things like this. And now that we have this request already object, we bind it directly to the container. So the next time someone asks for it, like the request facade, we get back a new instance. So we can bind information, but we can also bind directly an instance. This is good to know. Then, yeah, we were already talking about singleton. So after the first run, we will always get back the same instance. And yeah, this is being used in Laravel all over the place. So go into your vendors folders and search for singleton. You will find a lot of service providers where this is being used. And it's always interesting to see how Laravel uses its own features. Then when we talk about the service container, we also have to talk about packages real quick. So every package comes with a service provider, which just says, hey, okay, I'm here, I'm this package. If you want to use some of my features, I'd like to bring this into the service container. So here, service container, this is what I have to offer. So when some of the users who want to use me want to use one of my classes, they can ask the service container and they don't have to create those instances themselves. So that's why we have a service provider with every package. So the next time you use a package, just check out the service provider class and you will see how it's using the service container. Okay, so again, I want to mention why we need the service container. It helps us to better handle our dependencies. We end up with less responsibilities in our code, less duplicated code. We have this one place where we defined how a dependency is being created, and we're changing the control flow, which makes everything much more powerful and flexible. And that's why I love the container, and that's also why Laravel's container is that special. Okay, that's already it from my talk. I have also a lot of resources that I want to share with you. I'm also going to share my slides, and they will also be on Twitter and on my website. The funny thing, what I want to mention is Matt Stauffer did a talk about the service container on Laracon Online, I think 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm glad that I could continue this. I've also mentioned this here. Check out the other resources, because every resources bring in some of new things that help you to get this click and aha moment. And I also hope that I could give you this oh and aha moment today with my talk and solve some of the issues that you had with Laravel itself. I also have a video course about Laravel's core, where I also talk in one category just about the service container. The first video introducing the service container is for free, so check this out as well. And I also have everything I've shown today in a Git repository, which you can find on my GitHub channel. And I'm almost in time. Oh God, how it is impossible. There's just one more thing that I wanted to show you. You would think this famous one more thing. So I'd like to introduce you to my new video course, Mastering PHP Storm. So this is something that I've been working on the last months very intensely. So the site should be now live. You should have now access to it. So it's a course about working with PHP Storm. Here with these nice designs, I'm going to show you what are some of the drawbacks when you work with PHP Storm, the design. There are so many tools. What should you use? And it's pretty slow. And yeah, of course, I'm here to help you again, if I can. And I want to make you have a nice and clean PHP Storm setup like I have as well. I want to show you some of the cool features of PHP Storm that really make a difference, and also show you what are some good shortcuts, so you can tell your mom, hey, I'm not using the mouse anymore, which, yeah, I think everybody wants, every one of us want to tell their mom. And I also have a custom theme, which I've created for PHP Storm, which you can get as well. There's also an example page. You find everything on masteringphpstorm.com, all the content here. And yeah, I have now 3 days release offer with minus 20%. So if you're interested, if you're using PHP Storm, please give it a look. And with that, I think I can now finally say I am at the end of my talk. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Ian, for having me here again. It's a pleasure. I'm really happy we could solve out all those issues. And yeah, I'm perfectly in time. So it's like if we had planned this. And
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thanks a lot. That was an amazing talk. Let me just bring up my screen. Yeah, so great job there. I will send you back so that you can take a breath, I'm sure. And
yeah, thank you.
But great job getting through that little bit of strife. Everything went smooth. So after that, thanks a lot.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Oh, cut them off. All right.